Amateur astronomers in central Queensland's Gemfields, Anthony Wesley and Phil Miles, are two of about 50 in the world doing the work they do. Every night they're in their own backyard observatories, taking photos and tracking changes on the planets.
I'm an amateur astronomer, and this beast beside me here is my pride and joy. So I spend a lot of time after dark looking up at the sky, mostly looking at the planets like Jupiter and Saturn.
It's got its own name. When they're that big as an amateur telescope, you're allowed to give them a name. So I've called it the Gem Eye because we're on the Gemfields.
Anthony Wesley moved to the small town of Rubyvale from Canberra 3 years ago for its pleasant weather and clear skies.
Rubyvale is on the Tropic of Capricorn. We have the planets directly overhead in winter, and the higher up the planets are in the sky, and preferably straight up overhead, the clearer the view that you get. And I've got two lasers.
The former computer programmer received high praise from professionals for his astrophotography last year when he captured a historic planetary event through his homemade telescope. A change in Jupiter's centuries-old storm, the Great Red Spot.
It went through this phase which no one had ever seen before, where it suddenly started misbehaving, I guess is the way you'd say. Instead of it being a nice compact storm, it started changing shape, and there was some material that came off and went back in, and it really looked like it was unstable last year. So there was a period of time when everybody was wondering what was going to happen. Is it going to break up and disperse? Is it going to shrink or get bigger? After a few months of watching it, it did get smaller by quite a noticeable amount, and then it's just settled down again. But even so, from this last year through to this year, it's still showing signs of not being 100% back to its old self. So amateur astronomers and professional astronomers are watching it very closely to see what it might do next.
Just this week, amateur astronomers and professionals across the globe noticed another change on Jupiter.
One of the amateurs and a professional found a new storm, and you can see on there that there's a bright spot, which is a new storm which has occurred in the northern area of Jupiter. So we're all madly trying to image it. As you can see, it's showing up there, and it's quite possible that it will get bigger and it will move across Jupiter at quite a speed, and there may be more behind it. So yes, we're all very excited. When something like that happens on a major planet, we're all jumping around for joy. These things don't happen very often. This sort of storm has happened in 2012 and I think in 2016. So it just shows how dynamic the planets are. This is a gas planet, and it just shows you, that storm is probably the size of Australia. So it's very significant. This storm is brand new, and it, combined with the amateurs and professionals, will understand in a week or two. Will understand quite a lot about what's going on with it.
To Australian astronomers, August is the best month of the year to look up at the sky when the solar system's largest planets, Jupiter and Saturn, are clearly on display.
It's very accessible for anyone who's interested in the night sky, interested in the planets. It's as easy as going outside. You don't even need to go to a dark site. You can just do it from your backyard. If they just go out at about 9 o'clock at night and look up in the sky, you can't miss them. Jupiter and Saturn are too bright. They look like two bright stars. Look, the planets are the things that I look at the most, and they're so rewarding because they, with a large telescope, you can see the atmospheres of the planets. You can see how they change from one night to the next. You can see lots of detail on the planets, and every night you see something different.
You look at that, you realise how big that is. I've done lots of exciting things, as most people have done in their lives, and I find this is probably the most exciting thing I've ever done in my life. Because you can sit there and be looking at a planet, and all of a sudden something will happen.